everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to do the second lesson part 3 and I have done part 1 and part 2 of the second lesson. If you haven't watched it, I will put the link in the description box. Today we are going to talk about the part 3 of the second lesson, British power in Sri Lanka. So we have already talked how the Canadian kingdom and how did our country became a colony of a British. So today we are going to talk about the freedom struggle in 1880. That means there are two freedom struggles which was launched by our Sri Lankan people in 1880 and also in 1848. First, let's talk about the freedom struggle in 1880. So in 1815, our Canadian kingdom was captured by the British. So the administration system and the traditional usage of the system and economic system was changed, and the Canadians were not familiar with it. So under the traditional system, there should be a king in Kandy. So after capturing the Canadian kingdom, the king of Britain became the king of Canadian kingdom. So there was a king of Britain who became the king and the king of the Canadian kingdom, and there is a new person whom the Canadian kingdom had never seen. He's a new person. So king of Britain is a new person to the Canadians who have never seen in their life. So therefore the Canadians felt that this is just like an state of anarchy. So British soldiers marched through the streets of the city of Kandy, and they had their language is English, and the customs and traditions were different. Their religion was different. All of them were different, and the Canadians were not familiar under this. And the traditional source of income of the Canadian aristocracy was affected by the new tax system which was imposed by the English. So they launched. For all of these reasons, the Canadians had to launch a rebellion to get their freedom once again. So let's talk about what are the factors that led to the launching of 1818 rebellion. What are the factors which launched this 1818 rebellion? Because they did not have a king. They were disappointed because they do not have a king. Instead of a king, they have a king of Britain. That means the king of a Britain. Okay, so the second one is the fear people had felt that the Buddhism will be destroyed. So they were afraid that Buddhism will be destroyed. Third one is the people were getting upset because the administration, the law reforms which were implemented by the British were different. So they were different. Then the fourth one is the powers, the privileges, and the source of income of the aristocracy was not safe. They were unsafe. Then the fifth one is the main cause for this struggle is there was an fight. There was an arose among the Sinhalese because of the appointment of Muslim named Haji Marikar as Muhandiram of Madige instead put in an Sinhalese people. Now that means a Muslim person was appointed as named as Haji Marikar as Muhandiram of Madige in Vellasa area. So there was launched a big rebellion for these reasons. Then let's talk about how the struggle has spread away and how it was begin. As Canadians were disappointed with the rule of the British, a person called Doraisamy was appeared as the Canadian king in Vellasa area. Then the agent of Uva got to know about this Doraisamy, and this agent of Uva sent a team which was led by Haji Marikar to Vellasa area to arrest Doraisamy. But instead Doraisamy, Marikar had died at the hands of the combatants. Again, Wilson, who was a sub-agent of Badulla, and Lieutenant Newman was left for Vellasa to arrest the race army. But Wilson was killed. Then these Vovella's clashes and all this struggle was spread throughout in different areas. So English was realized that this rebellion was spreading, and they sent Munaravila Kapetipola, who was in charge of the Udisav at that time, to curb the situation. Munaravila Kapetipola was the brother of um, Alepala Kumariam. And Kapetipola accepted the request made by the people to support the rebellion, and he joined to the Sinhalese rebellion. Then, once he joined, he became a prominent leader in the struggle of the freedom. So the rebellion was launched from Vellasa area and then spread to Dumbara, Hewahata, Harispattua, Matale, Nuvarakalaviya, Hatkorale and Sabaragamu areas. These are the places where this was spread. So this some of the prominent leaders of the freedom struggle are Kappatipura Nilame, Madugalla Disawa, Kiulgedara Mahotala, Sakanadikaram of Pilimatalawa, Bootave Ratirala, Kuhunkumure Ratirala. So these are the people who are prominent leaders of the freedom struggle. While Kappatipura Nilame, who led the combats from Uvella's area, Madugalle and Udagambada Nilame led the Dumbar areas, Pilimatalavu led the Hatkorale areas. Kappatipura Nilame led the Uvella's area, Madugalle and Udagambada Nilame led the Dumbar and Tumpan areas, Pilimatalavu led the Hatkorale area. So this way they carried on the struggle. The English army suffered heavy losses because of the guerrilla strategies adopted by the Sinhala army. So Sinhala troops were encouraged by these things, and they took the sacred tooth relic from the temple of Truth Relic and keep it with them. In the May in 1818, the English were about to lose their power in the Candian kingdom, and they struggled with all they might to curb the battle. So the English struggled with the Sinhalese to curb this battle. Let's talk about how the struggle was failed. The British was feared that they will lose their power of the Candian kingdom, and they imposed martial law throughout the kingdom and adopted a policy of destroying lands of other people. Accordingly, they went on destroying the houses of the Sinhalese people, cultivations, food, and all of those properties of the general public, and by setting by putting fire. So this discouraged the rebellion. So they had to suffer different types of hardships, and they had to fail this struggle. Then let's talk about the reason for the failure of the struggle. First one is this struggle was not organized properly. First one is the struggle was not organized properly. Second one, the combats were failed. The Sinhalese people were failed to understand the policies adopted by the English to curb the struggle. Third one is there existed personal fights between the leaders also. The leaders has existed different types of fights in the struggle. Fourth one is the Sinhalese people were failed to stop the weapon power of the English. And the last one is the Sinhalese people were discouraged because they identified that Dore's army who was appeared in Uvella's area was not the real Dore's army. The impacts of the struggle. What are the positive? What are the positive things of the struggle? The leaders such as Kapetipola and Madugalle, who led the struggle, were convicted through a military power and were beheaded. That means the Kapetipola and Madugalle, who has been led the struggle, were brought to the military court. Second one, Alepal and other people were taken to the Mauritius island in India. Third one is English power was established in the Candian kingdom through the Candy has been proclamations of 1818 and disagreed in the Candian Convention of 1850. That means British power in 1815 the Candian Convention was signed. So British has been disregarded Candian Convention by signing another convention called 1818 struggle. Then the fourth one is the power and the privileges which has been granted to the Candian chiefs were abolished, and those with power and privileges were given to the English officers. Then let's talk about the freedom struggle 1848. The Candians were suffered again due to the British rule. So in 1848 they thought of organizing the second freedom struggle. Although the first freedom struggle was not have a leadership, in 1848 struggle had a leadership of those who are common among the men. From the main people, there was one person who was under the leadership of 1848 struggle. What are the reasons for erupting this 1848 struggle? First one is impact of the constitutional reforms of Colebrook. We are going to talk about the constitutional reforms of Colebrook in the sixth lesson. So the Colebrook came to our country in 1840 and they put different kind of proposals in 1848. The plantations which were under the Colebrook reforms were increased, and they thought that they had implemented another policy called selling lands. The Land Act was introduced in 1840. A large number of lands which was which the ownership could not be verified were taken by the government. So as the British gave more priority to the development of plantations to have more on there, to have earned more profit, the traditional agriculture of this country was seriously affected. That means it was being increased, the plantation side. The first one is, with the weakening of the village councils, the village council had now in past days they organized village councils to carry different kind of functions of maintain rural irrigation system and resolving minor disputes in rural area and all of those. Okay, the village council has been decreased. Second one is the relationship between the government and the people were distant. That means they are not that much having a relationship. They don't have a good relationship. Third one is, under the rule of the British, Buddhism was neglected and liquor shops were opened in the Candian areas. So that's also another reason. Then the fourth one, the main is the new tax policy of the Lord Torrington. Lord Torrington has implemented new tax policy. There are a lot of tax policies: stamp duty, poll tax, dog tax, shop tax, boat tax, gun tax and car tax. These taxes was implemented by Lord Torrington to the Sri Lankan people. Then let's talk about the beginning of the struggle. In many parts of the country, a lot of protests was there due to the new taxes imposed by the Lord Torrington. That is the main reason, as I told. A strong protest came from the people against the poll tax, dog tax and gun tax. In July 1848, another group of protesters, which was led by Mandugalle, Rate Mahatta of Dumbare, came to meet the agent of Kandy to have a protest against the new taxes. Police, the Lokubanda Dunville was a police officer at that time, and he came to stop the protesters and to leave the protesters from that area. The protesters followed him off from the horseback ලොකු බණදුන්නල fell off from the horseback. So at that time they used horseback. So it did not take a long time to develop their rebellion against the British rule. They first started from Matale, and in July 1848, the Kurunagala, Nuvarakalawe, Tamankanduwa, and Harispattu had been has been under the hands of the Sinhalese. Even though the efforts of this was not successful, there are some leaders of the 1848 struggle. Gongale Godabanda, who was a David of Paliagoda, Puranappu, who was Francisco, and Dingirala. These are the three people. So, on the records, in July 1848, Gongale Godabanda was crowned as Sri Vikrama Sarva Siddhi by organizing a big ceremony in Damulla. Then, let's talk about the failure of this struggle. The first is the protest which has been spread in many areas was spread in both the upcountry and low country against the new tax of the British. And the struggle only spread to few areas. That's the main reason. Only spread to few areas in the upcountry. Low country they have been spread, as I told. You can see Matale, Kurunagala, Nuvarakalawe, Tammankadu, Harispattuwa. Lot of them are not in upcountry. Okay, only few are there. Only few areas in upcountry only few areas the struggle was spread. That's one of the reason. Candian kingdom is the main kingdom at that time, and that was the main kingdom which the British was capturing now. So that protesters should have to understand that they had to spread the struggle more in upcountry. Second one is, from the very beginning of the struggle, the English led their armies tragically and prevented the spread of the struggle. Therefore, it is only limited to few areas such as Matale, Kurunegala and Kandy. So, from the beginning of the struggle, the English led their armies to spread the struggle. So, the English army prevented the spread of the struggle, so it is only limited to Matale, Kurunegala and Kandy, those areas. Third one is, the Governor Lord Torrington has imposed martial laws and they have arrested the leaders of the struggle. Fourth one is, Kadahapalatero, Puranappu, Dingirala were taken to the military court and killed them. Gongale Godabanda went to expel from the country. He expelled from the country. The last one, after the leaders had been arrested and punished, the second freedom struggle was against the British also defeated. Okay. Then the impact of the struggle. After the struggle had ended, a committee which was headed by Mr. Bailey was appointed to find the causes of this struggle. And the second one is, under the recommendation of the committee, Governor Torrington and Governor Torrington and Ernest Tennant were removed from their posts and they were called back to England. Third one is, shop tax, dog tax were repealed and the stamp duty, the shop tax and dog tax were stopped. Stamp duty, gun tax and poll tax were again revised. Fourth one, the governor took measures to develop the agriculture and irrigation works. And the last one is, the sacred tooth relic was taken back to the British. So in a month of May they took that sacred tooth relic. Again it was taken. So that is the end of that end of this part 3, and in the part 4 I will talk about the economic development which was under the British rule. Thank you for joining to my session. Have a nice day.